Locked there, a powerful adventurer decided to train him to become the most powerful adventurer. Nora was the son of a lower-class nobleman who had no hope for the future or a cool magical skill and only had one friend. He woke up to start his life as a librarian after graduating from prep school. Because he preferred to earn money rather than burden his already useless father, he got dressed and walked down the stairs only to see his father lying face down, and he informed him that his place as a librarian was taken by the son of a viscount. As in most aristocratic societies, each nobleman had his own rank to which they corresponded. But unfortunately, they only had an empty title, which was at the very bottom of the social hierarchy, and this allowed those who were higher in rank to beat them in society. This news upset Nora, and he forced his father to stand up along the way, insulting him by calling him a useless dad. The father heard this, but since the son was not far from him, the old man simply continued trying to calm him down. Then Nora asked her worthless elder brother complex and stated that he would put on his ass to the ranks for the sake of his beloved brother. But they told her that there was no point in angering the nobles because it would only worsen the situation, and then she suggested that he take the entrance exam to the Academy of Heroes. Nora knew that he was most likely a loser, and he really was a loser and was unlikely to be able to become a knight or an adventurer. Although it was a chance to ensure a comfortable life for himself, Alice managed to convince him, and he decided to try because this little the underscore would probably torture him. If he decided to become a recluse in the city, he met Emma and her huge guns, and for some reason, she was full of energy. Although she worked as a librarian, even though he was a baron and she was just the daughter of a viscount, they were childhood friends because their parents got along well. When she talks about her new job in the library, Nora says that his place was taken by the viscount's son, and this upset her greatly. He asked why she was so worried about this. She replied that she had good one's news about his great sage skill. This skill was like an encyclopedia, like Raphael and Stan's, but he couldn't use it because every time he used it he got an unbearable headache that literally melted his brain. She said that while reading an ancient text she learned that the great Merlin also had headaches, but he dealt with them kissing his wives. She asked if he wanted to try, but this fool had to ask her to repeat, and she was embarrassed. Our hero was about to do it like a real macho, but she stopped him and asked him to change the place, and they went up to the roof. He kissed her but was so in love that he forgot about his skill. She reminded him of this, and he had a skill, and asked Merlin how he could become stronger to pass the exams at the academy. Merlin answered that he needed to explore a hidden dungeon. When he asked where it was, he got a headache, and he asked Emma to kiss him. As a first day, using Merlin's instructions, he found a hidden dungeon and remembered a spell to open a massive door. Blocking did not arouse suspicion, led him to the second floor. He was such a simpleton that he blindly followed her until he ended up in a room where he saw a hot beauty tied up in chains. At first he thought it was Ice Spice, but then it turned out that she was not bold. With the help of telepathy, she asked him to touch her head, and when he did, she telepathically spoke to him, introducing herself as a maid. Olivia, the self-proclaimed Super Antuke, somehow found a hidden dungeon, killed all the monsters inside, but turned out to be so stupid that she fell into a trap that kept her there for 200 years. Nora wanted to remove the chains from her, but she said that she would die because the chains are called the death chains that support life in their owner. When he asked why she called him, she said that she wanted to come up with a plot, but our virgin loser waved it off. She decided that he was a powerful adventurer who could find one dungeon, but he said it was his skill that brought him there. When he admitted that he was actually a useless negative type, she offered to share her skills with him because she couldn't do anything about it. When he touched her forehead with his, her skills instantly were passed on to him, and she explained that her skills can create other skills, transfer them to others, and even edit. This skill of creating and editing uses life points, and when they run out he dies, so he has to constantly do something to replenish them, like having sex, eating, or getting subscriptions from his followers on TikTok. Then he checked his life points, which was 550, and she asked him to try his new skills. In another place he met a slime monster and created a stone bullet by spending 50 points and shot him. Although he won, he felt like he had gone 3 rounds without a break and he needed to rest at home. He used his nymphomaniac sister to replenish his hit points, but it was not very effective. Then he met with Emma for the same experiment, but she thought that he asked her on a date and wore a revealing dress that exposed her breasts. He asked her to hug him, and this increased his hit points more than with Alice. He remembered how Olivier told him that he needed to gain 300, points to create a skill called Piercing Gaze, which will allow him to read information about every living and non-living creature. Then he activated Piercing Gaze and checked Emma's condition. When she complained that her shoulders were stiff, this overzealous guy immediately used his skill and made her breasts the size of a sare and made her wince. Then he said that small details are also important, but he was not a fan of her, so she asked him to make her breasts like her mother again, which he did, having spent all their points on the day of the entrance exams. The examiner told them to form a team of 3 and collect materials for the monsters that would be used for the assessment, since they could not return empty-handed. He tried to find someone but was dissuaded because he was a nobody, and then Emma appeared and said that she quit her job to be with him. Another girl named Lenora offered to join them, but when Nora introduced himself, she said that there was no point in remembering the name of the NPC. When the exam started, this is Lenora left then and went to the market to get materials, so Nora told Emma to wait for him while he hunted monsters because he was unlucky. The first monster he met in the dungeon was a dead Reaper from level 99 who could kill him with one hit. He tried to dodge his attacks and wanted to cancel his one-hit kill skill, but that required too many hit points, so he created a skill that made the monster's body heavy. It's so exhausted by the Reaper created a huge stone bullet and detonated it before falling. When it was time to announce the rankings, Nod thought that they might fail, as Oliver stated that the Reaper's head was trash. However, everyone was shocked when their team broke the entrance exam record thanks to the skull, which he reluctantly added into the mix. As soon as I got home, everyone's spirits were lifted, especially his shameless dad, who was just glad that his son would not be as useless as himself. However, the next problem that needed to be solved was insanely expensive entry fees. The next day during breakfast, Alice was all in war and their parents watched them with a straight face and shouted that it was in Alabama. Then Alice decided that he would become the new head of the house thanks to his new achievement, and this drove the shitty dad out of himself. When Nora talked about the entry fee, the old man said that he had some money saved up. However, when he heard that the amount was $300, he said that it would take him a year to raise the money, so Nora just decided to figure it out herself and not relying on the old man competing to be more useless than Sokolot. He then went to the dungeon to meet Olivier, who offered him to sell rare items for the monsters from the dungeon, but he explained that he did not want to draw attention to himself and even asked Lenore to take responsibility for the Reaper's head. Having no other choice, she sent him to the Adventurers Guild to engage in prostitution. There he met an intimidating man who was blocking his view, a pretty secretary in the reception area. So a girl named Lola told him that's how it should be. After meeting her, she explained that in Odin's guild there are different ranks of adventurers who perform different types of work. She explained the ranking system and then gave him to fill out a form when he noticed that he needed to indicate his skills. He doubted, and Lola said that any information provided would be classified. When she saw that he indicated Olivia's skills, she switched to _Mo and asked why he was impersonating Olivia Pride and Joa G. This idiot called her mistress, and Lola got even more angry, deciding that he also wants to become the main character. Then she took out a book to check if he was lying, and Nora asked what would happen if she was wrong. Lola promised to lift up her skirt and apologize in a cat's voice. He put his hands on the book and she showed all his skills, which is why the pervert immediately demanded that she lift up her skirt, and this increased his life points. After registration, he said that he needed money and she invited him to hunt rainbow grasshoppers. She explained that this was a D-rank task. Then she switched to Senbermote and said that she would prepare him a treat if he returned alive. When he got to the place, he thought about Emmy to his first assistant and decided to create a skill that would relieve his headache. But when he realized that it would cost 300 points, he hesitated. But in the end he created this skill and then activated the Great Sage, which helped him easily find the grasshoppers while he was collecting them for him. A warrior who turned out to be Emma ran up and tried to kick him, but fell to the ground. Then she asks why he became an adventurer without consulting her, and he explains that it could be dangerous for her, but she reminds him of their promise to always be together. Then she offers to help him with the pain, but he says that he already dealt with it by creating a skill, but she can still kiss him because it's just a greeting. He also says that he still has a headache, and she smiles at the Lola Guild hands him 250 relos, which is the biggest amount he's ever seen. She teases him by clinging to him, but Emma Milk won't let a girl with bad taste in clothes surpass her. Lola is not far behind and they end up attracting attention, so Nora decides to shower them with compliments and they calm down soon. They go on their next mission, where they are suddenly attacked by ugly goblins of the same level as Emma while Emma takes out her twin blade. Nora uses a stone bullet to smash a couple of goblins and then cuts them in half, but then a huge unicorn rabbit comes to the rescue. He quickly determines his level and asks Emma to move away, but the smart girl doesn't want to be Sakura, so she fights the rabbit and dodges her magic spells to hit him several times, but this only engages the rabbit and he jumps, causing an earthquake. And when he is about to finish Emma off, Nora throws him away with a stone bullet. They then took refuge in the forest, where Emma began to sulk, and to cheer her up he suggested that the monster had a weak spot that she couldn't reach. When his words had no effect, he decided to improve her skill with dual daggers, but it cost too many hit points, so he decided to edit the skill that cost much less. Then he said that he could make her strong, but she would have to do something in return, although she promised to cooperate. When he said that she would have to cover her ears, she readily agreed, become his Karen. Her screams attracted the rabbits, so he hurried, but it was too late because they were attacked from behind by the bad rabbit, pounced on the hole ready to impale him. But at the last minute, he created a stone bar. He quickly improved Emma's characteristics, and as soon as the stone broke, Emma killed the bad rabbit with one shot. That evening, when they brought the rabbit rock to receive the reward, Willow was surprised that they managed such a task on their own. To the surprise, Emma thanked her for what she did, inspired her to work hard, and they finally settled their differences. Then Nora took out the corpse of a rabbit and offered it to the guild so that everyone present could taste the rare juicy meat. After he received the award, everyone congratulated him because now he could enter the Magic Academy. However, the atmosphere of love was so warm that he promised to thank Olivia for changing his life for the better. When Emma came to the academy after paying the entrance fee, she suddenly saw a senior student passing by. Although Nora did not recognize her, Emma explained that she was Maria Albert, the daughter of the Duke. After hearing this, he wanted to look at her, but was shocked to learn that she was carrying a curse that would kill her on her 16th birthday. The next day, Nora woke up feeling that the whole world was pressing on him, but it was just Alice who tried to strangle him in sleeping with her big head. As usual, she was everywhere and he didn't mind, because it increased his hit points. At that moment, his father opens the door and sees them in the strangest position, so he just closes the door and screams in frustration. In the city, he also meets the overly energetic Emma, who wanted to join their morning greeting, so they went to the nearby forest to increase their hit points a little, since at school they had to wear badges depending on their rank. They felt out of place, and Emmy was approached by various nobles attracted by her beauty. While they boasted of their ranks, Nor sat and cursed his worthless baronet badge immediately disappear. When Maria appeared, she unexpectedly greeted Nora, calling him by his full name, which surprised everyone since the radiant Maria recognized him. With her eyes decided to introduce himself, but no one listened to him during the introductory lesson. The arrogant instructor named Lena admitted that she had once been a mercenary. Everyone else, she promised that she would teach them self-defense and at the same time lick them like a villain. In the first lesson, she offered to show how to defend themselves, and since Noah stood out for his poverty, she decided to make him her punching bag. She asked him to get the sword and attacked him, claiming that it was impossible. Noah took out the sword and checked her characteristics, which were 230. To this made him attack her, but she dodged using a skill called Step Back. She told him to try this skill and immediately attacked him, but he didn't even have time to react and received a blow to the stomach. But she immediately cured him and promised reward if he could repeat her technique. As expected, a virgin is a loser and a crowd of hormonal freaks inspires. Then he created his skill and was able to repeat the technique Step Back on the first try. Unfortunately, the reward was a massage, which many adventurers dream of. But for Noah it was torture because he could not breathe under the weight of her bulls. When his body stood on the mark, that his hit points increased greatly, and it was time to split into pairs. Lena insisted that Emma and Noah not be paired up because they were dating. They had to explain that they were just childhood friends. She also did not allow Maria and her maid Canon to be in the same pair, so the number one pervert in the class approached her. However, she rejected his invitation, saying that she was unworthy of her rank and invited the baronet comrades, who worked very hard, so she decided to team up with the Norums. Once they took over hands possessed by her brother, Alice interrupted her classes because she felt that Nor was planning something bad for their pair exercise. They took turns throwing each other up. However, Nor was not afraid since he had already bought a passive defense skill that was so cheap that he could. He had a smug look when she threw him up. He landed on his butt as expected, but then Maria fell and brought down all her intrigues on him. When the man approaches her, he realizes that it was a curse that was slowly taking away her life. He tried to get rid of it, but it would cost him 4 times more life points, so he asked the great sage about the most efficient way to get hit points. Then the shameless artificial intelligence tells him to line up all the girls present and slap all their areas one by one, which would earn him 2,000 life points LP. However, Nora argued that 0 points were not worth that kind of stress from using this skill. He got sick as usual so he asked Emma to kiss him, which he did without her permission because he couldn't bear the pain. This act only made Luna angry or made her jealous, but in the end, she made him run 50 laps. Later that day, they went to the guild where Lola got mad because she was caught, went to fix her makeup. After she told Lal about Maria's case, she said that one of her friends who is a clergyman who will lift a curse. She also said that her friend is very busy and, for some reason, doesn't like taking on cases related to curses, but they decided to try anyway. When they asked what could be the problem, she said that her friend is keeping it a secret, so Nora decided to do everything possible to save Maria before her 16th birthday, which was a week later. When Lola came to the temple, there was already a huge line of people wanting to be healed and not. Some people came out completely healthy inside the temple. She met a tired Luminous to rest after spending a lot of energy healing people. Meanwhile, Nora returned to the dungeon to visit Olivia, who was not in a good mood because he rarely visited her. She complained that because of him, she was poor, and he apologized and explained that he was busy because of his daughter Duke. After hearing his story, she said that perhaps this was a curse that was passed down to her from her ancestors and it began to work when she received it. To remove it, she would need about 10 LP, and he would not be able to accumulate. So she suggested that he turn to the priest. Then he told him what he was going to do and asked what the priest looked like, to which she replied that they were probably half-elves and could increase their strength 10 times. He quickly brushed off her teasing, but she did not stop and explained how to open the floodgates to the lady because of what he had nosebleed. Returning to the main topic related to increasing his level, she suggests that he create a forbidden skill called Lucky Libertine, which he immediately activates without knowing what he is doing in the city. He meets Emma, who says that he is late and he is in a hurry, but trips and falls on her calcium cannons. At this moment, Rice Han begins to work wonders with the girls around, and he realizes that this is the effect of his new skill. He quickly realizes that this skill can be inconvenient and uses the editing skill to change it so that it does not activate in serious situations such as during the stupid fan service. And Fire Fist. A smug smirk appears on his face and Emma begins to argue and Luna watches them from afar. Luna says that he is her type. When everyone calms down, Lola introduces him to Emma, and while they go to the restaurant, Emma notices that she is losing in everything except her strict plans. At the restaurant, Nora explains that the cursed person was Maria, and the moon says that she has already seen her before, but did not help when they ask why. She answers that it is not her abilities, but the fact that she cannot break Maria's curse, which has been in effect for 16 years. Then she asks how Maria copes, but Nora replies that she will not last even a week because the attacks are becoming more frequent. Saying that she is depressed and upset, Lola tries to cheer her up by saying that she saves hundreds of people every day, and she should not feel responsible for one person. Nora became worried. So he looked at her characteristics to find out how to remove the curse and realized that her life would be shortened due to the power of the curse, which she would destroy on the way home. Nora assumed that the elf's life would not cover the shortcoming of Maria's curse and wondered what to do, but then the moon changed her mind and decided to help Maria, which, frankly, shocked Nora, and he asked her to give him a little time in the alley. He admitted that he had looked into her status and knew what she was risking, but she did not let him finish. And with a smile on her face, she explained how nice it was to save lives. She told him about her mother, who was also a priestess, and lifted the curse until she had exhausted her lifespan. But she said it with a smile and added that she would give her life to save Maria. At that moment, they noticed an accident at a construction site and ran up to see a seriously wounded child, and Lola asked her to heal him. Then she took out her pistols and used a skill called Healing Shot to heal him in one fell swoop. They were all amazed by her skill, but she suddenly fell silent and fell face down on the ground. When Nora helped her up, he noticed that she had chronic anxiety and she began to panic. Muttering how he is afraid of curses, he looked at her characteristics again and saw that her skill Cowardice is activated every time she uses a lot of mana. When she woke up, she apologized for her strange behavior and tried to distract them from it, turn their attention to Maria, who needed their help. Nora suggested looking for another way out of the situation and said that Maria could die. She continued the exorcism ritual. Hearing this, Lola pressed her to the wall and asked why she hid this from her for so many years. Nora expected that Lola would hit her, but instead her friend hugged her tightly. While they were enjoying the moment, Nora decided to test her skills to figure out how she could survive after lifting the curse from Maria. Then he realized that the best thing would be to replace the lack of G with the lack of money. He said that he knew how to do it, but he didn't have enough pi. He even gave them a list of things that could increase his LP and asked them to figure out how to do it. Although they didn't know what to do, Lola remembered an event where they could easily earn money and explained that it was a competition to win hearts. This event took place in the Colosseum and featured haters who couldn't succeed in relationships and therefore had fun watching other guys and their girls. In other words, it was a bunch of old farts who hate people who were successful in love, so they created a cult to feel better. Just the thought of it made Nora fall to her knees. Meanwhile, Maria realizes that her health is deteriorating because the curse has become so strong that she feels the approach of death. At the event, in grief, everyone was eagerly waiting for the start, and Lola explained that this is because that the spectators are judges who can insult the participants while they are in grief. When the first participants came on stage, the girl with the potato nose introduced herself along with her ugly companions, but the audience was silent for several minutes and then began shouting insults, calling them pig pots. The holes began to panic and the crowd continued to mock the ugly pig pot. She wanted to go home, but Lola said that she could do it because the audience would not like her huge forehead. Then she screamed that she was not going to leave, and on stage, the other teams received their fair share of insults from Hayden's audience. Finally, a group of bad guys came on stage and Lola said that they were adventurers from the Lamu of a rival guild. Their performance was so amazing that Hayden's spectators were speechless and they received a total of 2.7 points. Nora noticed that the audience was upset and imagined what would happen if his girls turned out to be useless, but then discarded this thought. However, when his team was called, the audience turned on X-ray vision and was ready to attack. Emma happily walked onto the stage and introduced herself. There was an awkward silence hanging over the audience, a little embarrassed before the crowd started asking to be allowed to look at her airbags, and just like that, suddenly her fan base doubled and Luna came in second place introducing herself, and then Lola, who didn't seem used to teasing people. The moderator announced that the score was 2,925, a new record, and the girls jumped for joy. However, he added that the competition was not over yet and put on a mask. He said that they had to please everyone in the crowd to win the competition. He explained that everyone, the participant of the harem, must act out a scenario that the crowd will choose, along with his owner. The first task was to take care of his owner, who was shivering from the cold, and while they were looking at other tasks, the girls held a meeting to decide what to do. As expected, everything from the battle did an excellent job with their role, and the girls used their ideas to warm him up. The crowd watching their game was moved to tears and screamed so loudly that the Colosseum exploded with screams. They declared them the winners. They threw dear ones at their feet, and in despair, they drove away. Immediately after that, they went to the Duke's mansion, where they met a crying man. Nora said that he looked at Maria's condition and came with a plan to cure her. While Maria lay unconscious, she remembered her difficult childhood, which was due to the fact that her ancestors, losers in the war, placed a deadly curse on her. Since she was supposed to die early, she decided to live happily and entered the Academy of Heroes. When Nora entered the room, he introduced himself to the Duke and Luna. "Who are they?" and asked if she had changed her mind. Then she explained that she had previously refused their offer because of the curse, which was shrinking, but thanks to Nur, the situation had changed dramatically. He explained that he had changed her skills so that it affected her finances and not her life expectancy. Having heard this, everyone became cheerful, and Emin admitted that Maria had fallen for him since he broke the record for entering the academy. Then he asked how she knew that he had defeated the Reaper. After all, he didn't brag about it, but Amy said that Maria has a good understanding of people. Maria woke up and asked why he was trying so hard to help her. Then he said that she was the only noblewoman who accepted him despite his low origin, and he wanted to thank her. Then Luna began the process by sending mana into Maria, and she lit up, causing the curse to resist with all her might. The curse tried to resist, but Luna used all her powers to expel him and successfully lifted the curse. After that Luna struggle, she was breathing as if she was pulling Santa's sleigh, and Nora confirmed that the curse had disappeared forever. When he confirmed it, everyone burst into tears and thanked Luna, who in turn thanked them for giving her a second chance to fulfill her dream. Then Maria took Nora by the hand and promised to repay her for this for the rest of her life. But for some reason the girls realized that this meant that she would have another admirer. While they were sulking, Luna admitted that she also fell in love with the short one from Why Did Emma Get Angry, and the myth who knew nothing didn't even suspect that he was now tough guy. Later that day he told Olivia everything that happened and thanked her. She noticed that he smelled like female hormones, and he admitted that he kissed Maria to get the LP, and she frowned, so she also demanded a kiss. Nora thought that she was going too far with a stick, although the police saw could not get to the dungeon, but he thought that he had a chance to repeat the scene from Jujutsu Kaisen and approached her, but the cowardly mediocrity kissed her on the forehead. The next day, they received gratitude from the Dukes for saving his daughter, chest full of coins. Even after they divided the money, each of them had 100 million Relly and the moon set that she wanted to renovate her clinic. Nora thought about buying a premium account, but Emma suggested that he open a store where he could sell materials for monsters. When she explained how important it is to invest, it became clear that she was already planning a wedding, and then intervened. Lola stated that she knows how to count and will help him keep track of his finances, unlike her, whose only advantage is a dairy farm. As expected, Luna too wanted to help him, and they started arguing, and Nora ran away, making up an excuse to go home. Dad was amazed by the pile of coins that Nora brought. When they asked what he would do with the money, he answered that he had not decided yet and suggested that his father manage the money himself. But it turned out that he was also an avid gambler. But he boasted about his incredible luck, and his wife reminded him of what they had in mind. Nora decided to open a store and lose her. Dad begged to take him to work. Everyone already knew that he was shameless, but accepted it. Later that day, Nora went to the dungeon for materials. When he came to Olivia's lair, she did not answer his calls, and he thought that she had died, so he began to touch her until she could no longer hold back. She complained that he rarely visits her, and when she asked what he wanted, he said that he would like to explore the dungeon, and she suggested that he use the skill of creating an elevator in the dungeon. With this skill, he could instantly teleport to the floor that he had already visited but could only use it once an hour. Then she made him put on the blinding skill in case he wanted to escape from a strong monster. This idiot tried it on himself and almost went blind because he did not see Emma's green light. On the 5th floor, he noticed two already dead monsters and thought that they had killed each other, but then a black lion appeared behind him. He tried to see him, but could not get any information about his status. When the dragon approached, he quickly turned on a blinding light and created a portal to escape, but the dragon told him to stop, promising that he would not harm him because he had a cute face. Nora, however, he was not confused when he saw that Mufasa was growing a tulip on his head. Assessing his strength, the lion offered to take him to the 6th floor and in exchange for help him find someone. Nora agreed to a free trip to the Yuba, and the lion rushed at maximum speed, easily dealing with the monsters. Then he introduced himself as a tiger, which was clearly absurd, and explained that this name was given to him by his stupid friend. Then he told how he and his friend got into the dungeon and easily got to the 5th floor. But the friend decided to check how cool he was and went to the 6th floor. He wanted to clear it traps using his skills that Gron could pass, but in the end he waited for his friend for 350 years, which of course shocked Nora. But he remembered that patient dogs always get the most delicious tiger bone. He said that his friend Rachel was an elf, so perhaps she is still alive, because the dungeon is famous for keeping people alive. Nora got to the 6th floor, but did not see anything because it was dark, so he created a night vision skill. He soon noticed that something was approaching him, and realized that it was a damn monster and panicked. He checked its characteristics and saw that it was a level 110 zombie, and there were a lot of them. In addition, they could split into 6 parts and chase him, which made them even more creepy. Nora managed to escape from them by going through the door, but when he went through the second door, he saw the zombie again, but this guy was dressed strangely, so he checked his status and realized that it was coming. He tried to talk to him, but he did not answer, so he used his editing skills to remove his zombie form. It returned the Shala to the appearance of an elf, and Nora explained that he had been trapped for more than 300 years while Zom was waiting for him. This brought tears to his eyes, because he remembered what a good friend Zon had been for him when they accidentally became friends. He said that he went to the 6th floor alone because he wanted to help Thixo, who always protected him. Nora understood him, because Emma also protected him. Because his skill was useless, he returned with Nora to the 5th floor, where he met Thixoas, who was glad to see him alive. Then he told Left that he could forget about conquering the dungeon because he wanted to check if his lover was alive at home. Obviously the guy didn't know that friends are the most important thing, and what's worse, he said that strangers are not allowed in his village, which means that he threw the zone art, but he felt guilty that he wasted so much time. Thixo, but Left didn't mind because he was also an Arsenal fan and was still waiting for them to win the Champions League. Guy with tears in his eyes, he said goodbye to him, and when they were on the surface, he promised to repay Nori for saving his life. After he left, Nora asked what he was going to do now that his friend had left. He replied that he forgot something on the 5th floor and was going to return for it. Out of curiosity, Nora followed him and saw how angry he was defeating monsters. At first he thought that he was just angry, but soon noticed that he was crying because it was hard for him to part with his best friend. After seeing how betrayed he was by Vaslui, Thixo surprised him to become his friend. But Nora was serious and he agreed to live with him. He jumped on his back and they went back to the city, and Thixo thought how lucky he was that he had another friend like Rachel. When they returned home, Dad almost underscored himself when he saw Hauxon was trying to squeeze through the door with his huge ass. Nora's mom didn't pay attention to this and Alice was delighted. Thixo and Dad got along quickly, but Hauxon still didn't ask, will he eat them if he wants? In the meantime, Alice decided to pat Tekna on the head, and he made strange sounds that fortunately were not recorded. A few days later, when they were about to open the door of the guild, they heard two girls quarreling, and when they went inside, they saw that Lola was arguing with another girl, the administrator. Early in the morning, Emma met Nora, who looked as usual cheerful and energetic. She noticed that Nora was looking at her and gave him a morning bonus, almost breaking his chest because everything they looked at them. He asked her to stop, but she thought that he was just embarrassed that he was seen with her at school. Maria and Emma came to thank him for helping them. She came up to him and pressed herself against his broad chest, and Emma talked about the upcoming test, which Phil, of course, didn't know about. Then Nailina came and immediately explained how taking the exam because they were still beginners. She said that the exam would last 2 weeks and during this time, they would need to collect certain materials about monsters that they could get themselves. All the students whispered because they realized that these would be rare items, including a dragon which they could not buy with money. Like in the entrance exam, the worst thing was that Aelina added that those who score less than 10 points would have to attend additional classes all summer. During their lunch break, Emma wanted to come up with a strategy how to get these materials, but even Nora said that it would be difficult. When he asked what she was up to, she screamed that she wanted a dragon that would definitely help them take first place. Nora suggested going to the guild and asking Lola, and then they saw how the moon was desperately trying to pull Lola away from Sarah to her colleague who stole 2 adventurers under her leadership. But Sarah simply brushed her off, saying that the adventurers were bored looking at the uncouth Lola because she looked like a nanny from kindergarten. While Lola continued to complain, Sarah laughed at her because she was lagging behind in the weekly ranking, where her scores were so high that you could die if you tried to catch up with Lola. Nora remembered that the ranking affects bonuses and privileges at work, and she felt sorry for Lola, although Luna remembered that, according to the unspoken rule, secretaries should not steal clients from each other. Lola found out that Sarah does everything possible and uses her charms to seduce people. However, this underscore with a straight face denies the accusations and demands, but since Lola doesn't have any evidence, she called her a loser, which angered Lola so much that she vowed never again to let the Sari take away clients from her. That month, she challenged Sarah to a competition, to which she agreed on the condition that if Lola won, she would take one of her clients, namely Short Nor, who could not resist her charms. Seeing that he was being turned into a henpecked man, he checked her status and found that all her skills would be useful in his bed. Even her nose began to bleed when he imagined what she could do. Then Sarah went into the room where she laughed like an evil stepmother and said that she had already trained her men to be very devoted to her. Meanwhile, Nora asked Lola if she had a chance to win, and seeing her reaction, he promised to help. He explained that he was looking for a high-level task because of the academy exams, and since it would also increase her rating, they agreed to help each other. Luna also volunteered to help, saying that she used to be in the group, but left because her cowardice skill could interfere during missions. Nora agreed and the team promised to kick Sari's ass. They and the moon went into the forest and began to defeat the monsters until only the dragon remained thanks to their connections. Luna found out where the earth dragon lives. However, Emma said that dragons kill anyone who catches their eye. Nora, as his father's son, decided that the best thing would be to lure the dragon into a trap and then kill him. To prepare, they took new spears and Nora replenished his supply of LP from the girls. This allowed him to give them skills and they were ready to hunt the dragon. Thixo took them to the mountain where the dragon lived. They left the Zonar and they went alone. Nora asked the great sage where the dragon was and he said that he was in the north. After using the skill he had a headache and Emma kissed him and Luna frowned, but even after the explanation, she did not believe in their headache. Then they began to dig and prepare a trap for the dragon. When they finished he looked at the dragon to understand what skills he had in case he had to neutralize them, but any change would cost the stinking bastard too much LP. So he took a stone and threw it at the dragon, who woke up and immediately noticed him. He rushed at him with a roar and Nora ran for her life. Although he was almost crushed, he led the dragon to the trap and it kept firing at him with huge stones. Soon they all went to the place where the trap was, in which the stone dragon fell into and the girls immediately began to stab him. Nora also joined in, but the dragon did so, fired heavily at him with stones that he almost died, but soon they defeated the dragon, after which they rushed to his aid, and the moon healed him with her magic bullet. At school Elma was shocked to learn that they had killed a real earthly dragon. As for the rest of the loot, they took it to the guild where they created a big commotion thanks to his contribution. Lola's rating rose sharply and they jumped for Joe, but their delight was short-lived as Sarah also overtook them in points. Lola thought that Sarah was definitely cheating, but there was no evidence. It turned out that she forced everyone to work until exhaustion, until they turned into zombies. When they begged her to reward them for their hard work, she said that they still had a lot to do before cheering them up, which interested Nora, who also wanted to get a reward. Lola got angry and took Nora to a secret room where she started to undress, but Nora pulled out a coupon. Touch me anywhere. As if she was 11 years old, she said that he would have to use the coupons, but today he will have to lie down and allow himself to be served. Nora stopped him when he thought that she was faking and she cried. Later that day, he went to the dungeon for Livia's advice, who told him that if he wants to fight strong monsters, then he needs to go up to the 7th floor. But she said that he is not strong enough and suggested that he use a combination of skills with the elements of fire and lightning. She explained that he could get holy fire, which easily kills zombies, or drops of water, which could also be useful. Finally, he could try lightning, which would be ideal for the fence. Nora immediately bought these skills and then explained that he needed to create a magic fusion skill in order to use a powerful spell. He went to the 6th floor where he met several zombies. He combined the earth bullet with the sacred fire and was able to deliver a powerful attack that pierced the zombies. The power of the attack was so powerful that he thought that perhaps he could defeat the demon lord and went to the 7th floor like in any other dungeon. The 7th floor looked like a forest with sunlight, trees and fresh air, which amazed him while he was admiring the scenery. He noticed a pack of wolves furiously devouring another monster. He immediately checked their status, which was 3 times higher than him, and decided that it was better to retreat. At that moment a girl came up to him and said that she had a request because Tyson apparently told everyone that he could be her assistant. When he turned around, he saw a cute little girl who also had a flower on her head, but more importantly she reminded him of Emma and it made him remember their childhood when Emma was still riding a surfboard. Then he checked her status and found out that she was a dryad of the 55th level. Dryad asked him for a favor, saying that if he didn't help her, she would die. She began to beg him and for some reason fell to the ground. She said that it was her way to completely obey him, and Nora decided to at least listen to her request. She explained that she was a big tree in the forest, and Nora remembered that no one said that dryads are the spirits of the forest. She added that her skill allows her to be aware of everything that happens in the forest. When he asked why she looks like child, she replied that she thought that a pervert like him would pay more attention to her, but the idiot just blushed because he was not ready for Forbidden's love. Then she said that something was sucking the strength out of her and it was so creepy that it not only drained her but also scared. Nora thought that she was probably just mocking him, that honestly, it wasn't that difficult. She explained that her real body is an old tree and is being sucked out by the monster and asked him to defeat the monster. In return, she will tell him where the treasure chests are and how to get to the next floor. It was a fair deal, considering that he had to help Lola win the ranking, so he told her that he should check the monster first, and proudly called himself a cowardly chicken. She calls him a chicken and introduces herself as Dory. Together they went to where her real body was and saw a golden bee sucking the life force out of her. She said that bees should be bronze, but it mutated, that's why she was not in the colony. He realized that the monster's level was 256 and told her that the monster would finish him off if he tried to approach him. She apologized for asking the impossible and immediately fell in pain. Nora checked the bee and saw that it was sucking mana from her body. Although he knew that he could not defeat the golden bee, he looked at her real body and saw that it was gradually being destroyed. She gathered her strength to stand up and show him the way to the next floor. But seeing how hard she was trying, he cursed his weakness and said that he could not be so heartless and leave her to suffer because she was so similar to Emma. Then he went to Olivia's lair to find out her great knowledge, and as expected, she was glad that her student turned to her. However, she advised him not to listen to Dory because he is not as strong as the main character. However, Nora wanted to help him, so she asked if he fell in love with this girl at first sight. Nora explained that it was because she reminded him of Emma and decided to help by saying that he had to promise not in his mind, otherwise she would go to hell and kick his ass. Then he asked why she would not go to heaven, but the girl answered that she was a bad girl. On the 7th floor they found a golden bee in her nest, and Nora immediately used the target skill to attack the enemy. Then he walked up to a pack of wolves and told Dory to hide because the plan was dangerous. She gave him an unexpected bonus to the level and then ran away to hide. Nora threw a stone and one of the wolves rushed at him, but he ran away thinking that they would not catch up. However, they were faster than he expected and soon caught up with him, almost killing the light to escape. When he ran away, he saw how the golden bee sucked Dory's blood. Although she should have been in her nest, Dory was lying on the floor, who had lost consciousness, and he was angry, attacked the bee with a sword, but she deflected the blow. He shot lightning at her, but she was too fast. Soon the wolves caught up with him, wanting to skin him. Then he used the aim skill to make the silver wolves hate the golden bee. This made the flock attack the golden bee, and soon the battle turned into a bloody massacre in which the wolves received more injuries, but the bee eventually dealt with the annoying wolves and prepared to fight with a hold that used the fusion of water and electricity, directing it at a bee and Pikachu at their yellow asses. Soon after this, Dory woke up and thanked him for saving her life. Although she herself could not help, she showed him where the chest was and helped him get things out of it. After carefully examining the sphere, he realized that it strengthens magicians with the wind attribute, and the golden hairpin was the triple fruit of a fruitful fall. This made him happy and he thanked her for fulfilling the deal. She also showed him the entrance to the 8th floor, which he could not find in 6 months. Returning to the city, he gave a rare item to Lala to help her win the tournament. On the day of the final announcement, everyone was in anticipation, as if it was the event of the year. Each selection committee chooses their best adventurer, and they go up to the stage together. Then they count the number of coins that the head of the guild gave them depending on their achievements. One by one the adventurers are eliminated. The atmosphere became tense. They both showed their cards and Nora won, therefore Lola was declared the winner as expected. Sarah accused them of cheating, but Lola reminded her that she had no proof and advised her not to steal her partner from her. Sarah was upset and Nora, who was still in love with her, tried to cheer her up, and she took advantage of this to quietly slip him a note with her address. Lola noticed this and chased after her with a spiked baton. The next day he gave Emma the wind sphere and the Queen of the Glock is here. She was swallowed by her body lit up brightly, and Nora saw that she had received 2 new skills, one of which allowed her to become invisible. She tried the first skill of running at the speed of the wine and then tried the skill of blowing the wine, which also turned out to be very powerful. She thanked him for the gift but lowered her eyes, and he asked if it was because of her breasts that she was upset, but she said no and asked him to go with her to the party. Moore remembered that it was a party for the nobility, but she explained that she would be forced to dance and asked him to do it instead of her. At first he was hesitant for some reason, but when she said that she would have to look for another guide, he reluctantly agreed to go with her. His indifference angered her, and she said that he did not pay enough attention to her and probably would not notice she fell in love with someone else or kidnap her. At home he met his family screaming loudly and his father attacked the innocent Napkin. When he asked what happened, they replied that they could not find a store for him because no one wanted to sell or rent the premises to a penniless nobleman. This reminded Nori that even though he had become stronger, he was still the son of no scared node who was not even considered a nobleman. To encourage his father, he told him not to rush because he never believed that he could find the right one place. He then asked his worthless clothes for the party and said that he was going to go there with Emma. Then PC's father brought an ugly suit that looked like a tiger skin and said that it was the best thing he had. After seeing the state of their family treasure, which was probably the only thing he could inherit, he decided to just buy a new suit for the party. He looked elegant, and even Emma's parents noticed him and thanked him for coming with Emma. When he asked where she was, they told him to wait a little while she won't change clothes. Does he know what kind of party this is? And from his answer I realized that Nora has no idea what's going on. At that moment Emma came, a beauty similar to Dina without squeezing out their hair, and as expected, the first thing she did was attract his attention with her luxurious 106 centimeter. Soon after that, the owner of which could be called Jack Sparrow said that a few days ago the ghost thieves sent him a letter. At the mention of this name, everyone's mood changed, and Nora noticed that Emma was shocked. Jack told them not to worry and added that although the thief was hunting for his jewel called the Tears of a Mermaid, he had no chance of stealing it because he hired the best adventurers from the guild. It was enough to look at these adventurers to understand that they looked strong, but Noir still did not take his eyes off the girl adventurer, who was only 16 years old but who had level 148, making sure that the jewel was in good hands. Everyone calmed down except for Emma, who was still scared. When he asked if the thief was threatening her, she quickly changed the subject and smiled tightly. Later they saw their classmates taking turns dancing on stage. A stylish guy named Mike came up to say hello to Emma and Nor roared a little. Then he asked her out again, but she refused. He decided that Nor was interfering, and having learned that he was from the Baron's family, he proposed a competition to see who could dance better with Emma. Nor easily agreed that it was not like him, but when Emma felt like his balls of steel had turned bronze, Mike walked on stage first with Emma, and the crowd loudly cheered for the aristocrats. When it was Nor's turn, he showed off his dancing skills before going on stage, but he was still nervous and Emma gave him a little nudge to calm down. As soon as they started dancing, everyone was impressed with their performance, and there was loud applause, which made him the clear winner. When he leaned down to kiss her, the lights went out, and it meant that a thief had come. Phantom, who was obsessed with attention because he was not loved at home. She said that she came for the Tears of the Mermaid and for Emma. This came as a shock to him because he remembered her strange questions that she asked him that day. The adventurer girl immediately rushed after her to the chandelier, but she flew past and went down to steal Emma right from the hands of the hole. Then she put Emma to sleep and hit the weak girl, and then Jack Sparrow escaped. The idiot immediately rushed to check the exile of his jewelry, but in the end he gave away its location to a real phantom thief who was hiding in the crowd. They successfully took what they needed and, like Batman, jumped out the window to escape. The adventurers decided to split into two groups to pursue the intruders, and Nora asked to take her with him, but he told her that he was not strong enough to fight them because he was weak. But she introduced herself as Leela and asked him not to interfere. They soon caught up with the Phantom Woman, and Nora quickly checked her status to find out which skills posed the greatest danger to them. Then he warned Leela to be careful with her summoning skill, and when the cards were revealed, the old woman summoned a level 50th fire bird to begin attack. She shot at them, and the bird focused on the hole as an attack using Hellfire. Layla used a demonic fist to deflect the flames. By this time the ugly red clown armed herself with a knife and was about to attack the hole, and Layla went after the bird, but the bird dodges change his summoning skill. But since he spent all his LP on Michael Jackson, he had no despair. Then he tried to use his weak lightning, but she easily dodged it. Even though she admitted that she was afraid of lightning, she knew what Nora was capable of, so she took a step back. Meanwhile, Layla was attacked by an annoying bird, and to help her, he created a gravity skill that pressed the bird to the ground. Then he used a water spell, which the red-haired clown reflected, but there was lightning in it that fried her. Layla immediately hit the fiery bird and defeated it, which is why the red-haired clown was created. Nora quickly went to check Emma, but realized that she was still under with a sleeping effect, and Layla praised each other for their skills, and although they knew that they were from different guilds, they decided to become friends. Soon after, Layla's leader appeared and said that he had already caught the Phantom Man and wanted to help them. Nora noticed something strange in this muscular guy, and while he was praising them for defeating the Red Clown, Nora used a penetrating look and found that he was blocked at that moment. He received a blow from the guy, after which he used gravity to easily suppress them. Then he took them away. Sleeping Beauty for herself, and when Leela demanded an explanation, Nora tore off his earring and he turned back into a male phantom. He stated that he was going to make Emma his wife because he is so powerful that he can take whatever he wants. After seeing him having fun with her, Nora overcomes gravity and gets up. But the Phantom increased the power of the gravitational field, but Nora was able to overcome its effect on her body, and while the Phantom was distracted, Emma woke up and hit him with her fist, and Nora finished him off by knocking him out in the mansion. Jack Sparrow thanked Nora for saving her and promised to somehow repay her. Emma's parents also thanked him for saving their daughter, who was glad that Nora finally treated her like a human being in gratitude for her help. Jack Sparrow helped them get a discount on rare monster items, which made the poor girl happy. A few days later at school, LMI announced that a new student had transferred to them, who turned out to be Leela. Leela introduced herself like an adventure seeker and immediately charmed the boys, which made the ugly grills jealous. Then Nora realized that this was the same Leela with whom he fought a few days ago. Seeing that they knew each other, all ordered her to sit next to Nora, which very upset the rest of the high school students. Then Luna announced that it was time for special lessons, and the new Leela became interested. She asked the guys what kind of special training they were, and they answered that this means that they are going to a training camp, which means they will rest at the hot springs on the way to the hot springs. Elma warned them to be on guard because they might meet monsters. However, Emma was very excited because this was an opportunity to take skincare to the next level. Seeing her excitement, Nora thought that she should not participate in the training camp because she would probably overdo it. Meanwhile, the guys were looking forward to swimming in the outdoor pool because this was their only chance to see something interesting. Because of this, the girls decided not to show up, but Emma with a coconut hairstyle and said that it's okay, it's the guys see her. Then they turned their attention to the hole, hoping that he would stop anyone who tried to peep, and seeing their faces, the perverts in the closet had no choice but to shut up. Later, everyone started fooling around, and Luna reminded them to be on the alert. But the guy with spiky hair said that they are elite fighters who can easily cope with any monsters, and she made him eat dirt in one motion. She directly told him that he is like that usually die. At the end of the story, and the main character develops angry, she ordered them to line up before returning since all the guys were stupid, took command and began to give instructions, which was quite suitable for the NPC because it was a rare opportunity for a hot beauty to practice bandits. She also said that she was not evil, but her spiky hair gave her a suspicious look. As soon as the girls saw Pixie, they immediately began to pet her as if she were a goldfish. Nora looked at her carefully and noticed that she had the skill of puppeteer. He looked at all well, waiting for an answer, but she looked away, making it clear that they were on their own. Pixie said that she knew a shortcut to the hot spring and everyone followed her like a herd of sheep. Soon they passed through dark cave and Nora was worried, but Spike confidently stated that he had the skill of detecting traps and went first. Nora also took out a sword, but Pixie complained that it scared her and asked to remove it. When they reached the center of the cave with many holes, Nora was sure that monsters were hiding in them, so he told Pixie that he knew about her skill puppeteer. This made her confess and order the lizard people to line up as they all rushed into battle to prove their Maru was right that the girls were in danger. But his fears were in vain because Layla and his harem girls were able to cope with the monsters. Soon all the lizard people were defeated and Pixie ran away. Nora used her gravitational ability to stop them escape when they reached the other shore. Elna wanted to say I told you so, that they saw a hot spring from afar and this made them jump for Joe, completely ignoring her words. Later they got to theirs dwellings where they were met by the old hag on the verge of death. The old woman said that the hot spring was ready for the girls, but they were afraid of the guys, so Spike promised not to peep on them since the lizards probably hit their heads hard. The girls decided to force them to take a false oath before leaving. When they left, the guys showed their true colors and even sang the hymn of brotherhood, preparing to forever remember the sight of the bear pen. Spike became the leader of this gang of degenerates and distributed masks to everyone present, including Nora, who reluctantly agreed, holding the mask. You remember how the girls made him their knight in shining armor and refused their invitation. This made him a traitor in their eyes, and they began to chase him throughout the dwelling until he headed towards the open women's bathing area. Luckily Ilna stood guard and used the earth jutsu, which stopped them. They stood up and continued on their way to the animal pen, so Ilna and Nora used the earth jutsu to stop them. This time, not only their spike leader was left standing ready to avenge his fallen comrades. When he and Ilna exchanged blows, he pushed her away with such force that Nora had to save her. Then she asked how he became so strong, and he admitted that he drank a lot of potions that enhanced his abilities and then activated them and turned into a giga muscle. Ilna calm for the fact that he did this only to look at the plot, but her words angered him, and he explained that he was just wondering what was happening in the life of his classmate. He tried to convince Nora to join him to fulfill the dream of Anigai, but managed to resist the temptation and said that he would never do that to his friends. This angered Spike and they began to fight, proving which of them is stronger. Nora, of course, is stronger physically, so he activated a skill that deprives the enemy of strength and was able to knock Spike to the ground. At that moment, another guy who pretended that he was from the B team ran to the hot spring. Nora wanted to catch up with him, but a guy named Kent was too fast. He decided to slow down his stats, but it cost him too many points. But Emma was in danger and he risked his life to activate the skill. Even though he was slowed down, Kent managed to jump into the spring followed by Nora. But it turned out that the girls were not there because Elena told them to wait. Because he spent too many points, he lost consciousness right in the water. When he woke up, he found that he was blindfolded, and Elena said that they allowed him to take a bath with them as a reward for what he stopped the degenerates who were having fun in his room. Next week, on the first day of the store's opening, Lola single-handedly moved heavy furniture and found out that she was a distant relative of the gorilla. Thanks to the hard work of Nora, the store was filled with rare goods, and the moon became a project that only took them a few weeks to get going. Nora also let the girls try strange things, but they liked not knowing that it was the corpses of the slug from the dungeon. Soon people began to come to the store to look at the rare goods, and the loser dad cry when Nora thanked him for advertising the store. At that moment he again thanked Nora for changing their lives and said that he was proud of her, and it made him remember how far away he progressed. Then he returned to the dungeon and said that he wanted to free Olivia from the chains and end her suffering in gratitude for making a powerful adventurer out of a useless loser. She appreciates his efforts, but begs him not to overexert the floor and asked the great sage how to free Olivia from the deadly chains without killing her. The sage told him to go to the 15th floor where he will find the answer to his question. He soon found himself on the 14th floor where there was a sign with instructions for passing the test depending on the number of adventurers present. The first path was for single adventurers and the second for a group. Then he followed the first path and found himself on a tiny bridge with spikes under his feet. At the beginning of the bridge, there was a warning sign indicating that skills would not help him pass. He was a coward and did not want to go through the tests alone, so he decided that it was time to tell Emmy about Olivia's secret. He told her about Olivia and about the secret room, and she promised to help him even if he had to fight Lucifer. They immediately returned to the 14th floor and followed the second path, which led them to a room with holes in each corner. The door through which they entered automatically closed, and immediately they were surrounded by a crowd of tiny goblins. The goblins asked them to throw away their weapons, and they decided to play along. Then they asked for food, and Nora took out a cookie from her dimensional pocket and handed it to them. When the leader tried it and understood that it was sweet, he called the others, as he called Adam, while they were eating. He demanded that Emma entertain the pig, which she did only because Nora asked her. But the leader said that her performance was boring and she did not deserve to waste oxygen. Emma almost drove them crazy, but Nora held her back. After a while, the goblins began to cough one after another, and Nora explained that he added poison to the cookies using the creation skill. They successfully passed the test with goblins and got to the 15th floor where they found Olivia, or someone who looked like her, in chains. He tried to talk to her telepathically as usual, but she did not answer, and he decided to check her characteristics. He found out that the girl was tied up as a clone of Olivia, and the chains were real. He also noticed a stone sign next to her on which was written that she needed to be freed without killing. Emma used her airstrike to free the clone. When she woke up, she acted friendly, but Nora accused her of that she is the chain of death, and she stopped pretending Nora attacked her with a stone bullet, but she kicked it away as if it was a balloon. Then she used a powerful fire attack in the form of a dragon that could target through her with a powerful blow. She used a powerful fire spell that scared Nora, and he used his escape skill to return to Olivia's lair. Emma asked if she had a weakness that would help them defeat her powerful clone. Nora refused, saying that he had to repay her for the kindness she showed him. The next day, Nora went to the library to study Olivia's history in hopes of finding her weaknesses. After reading, he learned that a priest with the same sacrifice skill was able to defeat Olivia. Going outside, he assessed the sacrifice skill, which cost £10, and discovered that it allows adventurers to improve their useless skill to instantly increase strength during battle. So he activated this skill. That night he came across a fake Olivia in the city, and she said that her work is to eliminate any intruder on her floor. However, she became bored and instead wanted to mock him. Then she asked how he plans to save his master, and what's worse, she informed him that Olivia is hiding the pain that the tormentor she experienced daily in the dungeon. This only strengthened his resolve to free her, as a result of which he activated the sacrifice skill and received an instant effect. First he tried a lightning spell, which she dodged, and then attacked her with a sword to the forehead, but she only pretended to be worried when it was easy to slash. Although it was a light cut, his body went numb, and he realized that she had added a lightning attack to her strike. Meanwhile, Olivia was able to sense his wavering consciousness since she is connected to her clone. It made her remember why she was actually interested in the Norms 200 years ago. A loser who looked exactly like him suddenly asked to be allowed to become her student. While she was having fun in a bar, she chased him like a no-fly, only for him to fall face down on the ground, but she refused because she didn't know how to teach someone. However, the boy was consistent and followed her everywhere for days, weeks, and months just to prove how determined he was. After he had been following her for a while, she asked why he was so obsessed, and he said that he promised his late friend to become the greatest adventurer. Then she said that if he could hurt her even once, she would take him as his student. He pulled out the sword and hit her from behind, but she stepped on the blades with her bare foot. She said that he was weaker than the NPC and advised him to give up his dream and died, but the pursuer continued to follow her. In the end, she began to gradually succumb to him, and just when she was already starting to enjoy, the bartender said that the guy died. It turned out that he was trying to protect the girl from the monster and die. After seeing his lifeless body, she blamed herself for his death, because if she had trained him properly, everything would have been different in the battle. Nora was already on the verge of defeat, but Emma used her step flash to throw the clone away, and the other girls from the harem appear, and the moon used her heal-and gun to heal him. While they stood in front of him, the clone taunted them, saying that they are not in a Disney musical. They are right. They attacked her using a well-coordinated attack, but she attacked Emma from behind and Leela from the back. Then Emma began throwing water steels at her, and it threw her back, but she responded with a powerful blow. Nora removed the lightning from the sword, and Leela hit it with such force that it broke. She responded with a blow that was more precise, and the bands of Drake's body and turned him into fried potatoes. At that moment, all the barrels began to collapse because the clone used the fever-inducing skill. She again released flames, ready to finish him off, but he dodged. Although it required all her strength, he realized that she slowed down his movement with her skill, and even when he attacked with a stone bullet, she turned around and hit him. At that moment, he realized that she had Olivia's skills better than him. She told him to give up, but he refused and began to tell no one an unnecessary story, ending with the fact that he had to save Olivia, and he traded all his skills except creativity and received a powerful buff that he used to rush after her, and for the first time was able to accurately predict her movement. But even when he hit her, his sword could not leave a scratch on her, and she struck him in the face several times with strong blows until he flew to the side. She again released the flames of the dragon, and his whole life flashed before his eyes. Fate